Talking Reds. I'm Josh Sexton, joined today by Paul Cope. I think it's our first time on a video together.
Our debut,
Paul, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Could be the next deadly duo, so watch out for that. Paul, I don't know about you, but since last night I seem to have had about 30 WhatsApp arguments with people about last night's game, about what went wrong and where it went wrong.
I don't see this. You've got youth and experience on this video. I don't participate in these things anymore. As soon as that match finished, I just turned over, put Vic and Bob on, and just laughed at stupid stuff.
I feel like I should have done something like that. I could take a leaf out of your book there.
Absolutely, mate. It only takes about 30 years to get to that point, so you've probably got 15 years left of this nonsense, I'd say.
Well, I'll keep that in mind anyway. I've tried to sort of sum up what I think went wrong in terms of throwing together an agenda here. And in terms of the negatives of the game then, the midfield, I think a lot of people were saying wasn't great. This is part of the argument I've had, is there seems to be a lot of revisionism around the selection you made in terms of being Hendo, Gini and Milner.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't think that works creatively, but my argument is that it served us well last season, so I don't really see what's sort of changed this season apart from the fact that we've become stronger defensively.
Yeah, I think people banging on about the creativity side is a bit of a red herring for yesterday, because when you all see that team, the whole point of that midfield is to be solid and to make sure that we've got a good base to build off. And I think what went badly wrong last night is that didn't happen at all. We looked all over the place in the middle of the park, and I think that I know you've said on here what's different, what's changed, and I think the problem with this is generally the problem with the way Klopp wants to play, and this applies to Guardiola, is that if you've got one or two players off the pace, it doesn't matter who you play, and it doesn't matter what formation you play, because of the style of football, it just doesn't work anymore. And the reality is, whether you like Jordan Henderson or not, he hasn't played well the past 2 games, and in that position in this team, if that happens, you're just in so much trouble. And I think it's harsh even just naming him to isolate him, because not one of them played well. I think in fairness to Milner, he tried to impose himself a bit.
He's probably
more.
the only one who comes away with credit, isn't he?
Yeah, even just in the sort of leaving a few tackles in on the likes of Neymar. But none of them really got a grip of the game. There were a couple of times. The one that springs to mind, even with Milner, was when they took a quick free kick after about 5 or 10 minutes, and it completely caught us on the back foot. And things like that concern me in games like this, is that we didn't seem to start quickly. We looked like we were chasing it from the start, and once that starts happening, it's really difficult to make any imprint. But when you're playing against players of this quality.
And I think that's one of the points that I made, is that in these sort of games you sort of want to stay in them and hope that you get a bit of a lucky break here and there. But I think a lot of people wanted us to maybe start someone more attacking in midfield, someone like Shaqiri or Keita, and they probably had a point, to be fair, because in terms of chance creation we only had 1 shot on target, created 0 clear-cut chances. There's been a lot said about the front three this season, but it's becoming harder to see what the issue is really.
Yeah, I think it's more obvious in games like this and it's funny if people are out there saying we should have played Shaqiri or Keita from the start. Well, I often say this, it's like sliding doors. You don't get to see what happened in the other scenario. What could have happened in the other scenario is we're 5-0 down after half an hour, because Shaqiri and Keita just haven't even got the defensive capabilities that the other two have got. And you can debate that all you want. At the end of the day, we know Keita, or we hope Keita's going to be a superstar. But the reality is he hasn't been yet for us. And to expect him to drop into a game like that and reach that level is ridiculous, I think. For the front three, I think you've got to take into account that this is changing a lot now. So I think we looked more like back to our 4-3-3 last night. And because of the chopping and changing, I think people think that players are just like robots who can just change a computer program in their mind and then they're fine. This is all still sort of another step in the evolution of the team, and they're going to have to get used to switching between these formations and individual positions. And until that happens, I think it might just be a case of we sort of have to suck this up for a bit.
And the last negative I've put down is of course the referee, which a lot of people have been talking about. Klopp was sort of moaning about in his post-match press conference, talking about all the sort of play acting and them kind of antics. But then also he mentioned that Liverpool had been top of the Fair Play Award, and I think that probably applies to even before he came in under Brendan Rodgers for that however many seasons. And then last night it seemed like that was all sort of flipped on its head. I think we knew going into it that PSG were going to be giving all them antics and going to be gnarly and tactful, but it felt like the referee refed it as though it was the other way around, as though Liverpool were the ones doing all the diving and play acting and ended up with 6 yellow cards compared to their 2. It was just ridiculous at points. Yeah,
it's funny. We were having a chat before we started filming about who was the ref and what was his experience, and he has reffed some big games this season, but you said before that he hadn't, and he looked to me like a ref who was sort of caught in the headlights a bit, like a rabbit in the headlights, where the occasion sort of overawed him a bit, and he was just at times. It's a bit. I often talk about Man United and people go mad, but it reminds me a little bit of sort of the Ferguson, Roy Keane era of United, where there's just loads going on and there's loads of players in the ref's face, and he just doesn't really know what to do. And again, people sort of forget that refs are humans as well, so maybe he just had a day where he's like, God, I don't know what to do here for the best. And once you start booking people early on, you're creating a rod for your own back, because you've got to keep up the booking rate. But then things like the Verratti challenge happen, and you're like, I'm not going to send him. And even the commentator on BT noticed how quickly he got his yellow card out, as if it was like, I can't send him off, so I'll just book him straight away. No. But once you've booked him for that, you're like, that's the level of a yellow card, or Joe Gomez is one? What are we doing here? And yeah, I don't know. With all the stuff that's going on in football lately, I do wonder what's happening behind the scenes, and whether with a ref in that situation, is it like, even if there's no sort of overt pressure, is it like, well, we're playing at Paris, and maybe this is just sort of old-fashioned home advantage, that he just feels like he can't give as much against the home team as he did against us. It always seems, I think, that we're on the wrong end of that now. We don't feel...
Even at Anfield, I think it seems that way, which is when you say about the home advantage, it's strange, because it doesn't feel like we have it more often than not. I don't know if that's just like cry arson or not, but it does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't... And maybe other fans would say that's nonsense, but I can't remember the last time we sort of had a game at home that was that biased to us as last night was to them.
I can't remember the last time I had a penalty at home. Full
exactly,
stop,
yeah.
Yeah, it was the Keita challenge last night that did it for me. I think in the sort of like 93rd minute, he'd gone up to kick the ball away, and then one of their players just ran into his leg, and the referee booked him. And at that point, I was just ready to leave the booth. So that was my night done at that point.
Yeah,
that's when I should have had Vic and Bob on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in terms of analysing more of what went wrong last night, we've had Neil Atkinson sit down with his tactics board and go into it, and here he is.
Paris Saint-Germain set up very interestingly against Liverpool. They did so to gamble all their energy, really, on that first half an hour and getting sufficiently ahead of the Reds in order to be able to hang on in there for the rest of the game. This, as it's currently laid out, is a reflection of the first half, so the influence maps that you get from some apps. And I think that a couple of little things are fascinating from the Paris Saint-Germain point of view. First and foremost, it's that what we've got on this side with Kempembe and Bernat both sort of averaging around here, with Salah around here, as though they were very much watching him, whereas Kehrer on the other side had much more room to manoeuvre and was higher up the pitch. Verratti's here, but it's the way in which Marquinhos both played there and there, splitting the centre-halves massively to allow there to be another layer of comfort, another comfort blanket over here. And obviously, just because the counters are there doesn't mean they can't come back in and be part of that. In attack, they targeted Liverpool's right-hand side, and they did so to really, really strong effect. Yeah, Mbappe and Neymar both play over on this side, unlike the way in which you normally expect this 4-3-3 to operate, with a more conventional sort of shape of Cavani through the middle. Throughout the whole game, Cavani's barely involved. He barely touches the ball, though he is unlucky not to score at one phase of play. But he's there just to occupy. He's there just to occupy this little space, as is Di Maria. The more than anything else they're doing there is just ensuring they're keeping Liverpool honest on this side of the pitch to create the overloads on this side of the pitch and force Liverpool back. Salah's average position in the first half, first 15 minutes, is pretty much next to Gomez, somewhere like this, in terms of where his influence is concerned. And in that first 15 minutes, you got to see Liverpool just weren't compact enough in any way. We often talk about compact being the distance between the centre-halves and the centre-forwards, the midfielders in there. But it was also from left to right across the pitch. Paris Saint-Germain managed to play in a way which led to Salah being all the way back here in that first 15 minutes. Mane and Firmino trying to sort of get involved over here. But we know our front three, just like theirs, does their best work, actually, when they're close together, not like they're being pushed around like that. The other thing that was noticeable in that early flurry was that Wijnaldum and Milner swapped sides. The average position showed Wijnaldum through the middle of the pitch. That wasn't the case first 15. He was right the way over here. Milner obviously came over to do some firefighting, possibly. Also maybe because Wijnaldum got the booking and Liverpool didn't want to risk going down to 10. So Wijnaldum ended up on that side of the pitch. Second half, Liverpool played relatively well. They got the foothold in the game. Paris Saint-Germain was still good on the break. They still looked as though they were going to threaten Liverpool. The honest situation is that Liverpool came up against a side for whom, you only had to see the reaction between the two centre-backs late in the game as they chest bumped. This was Paris Saint-Germain's cup final. It was a real test of fire for these footballers. They'll come out the other side feeling absolutely fantastic. We should be probably quite proud, quite pleased that Paris Saint-Germain's cup final at home is indeed Liverpool. But we should also be disappointed with the way the Reds started the game. We should be disappointed with the fact that the midfield three did not get to grips with their task. Maybe even wonder whether or not playing them as that flat three played into Paris Saint-Germain's hands a little bit too much. We can be disappointed, but we should also be able to say, you know what, they were a really good side. They played very, very well indeed. They, on balance, broadly deserved their 2-1 victory. We've got to shrug our shoulders. We've got a job to do against Everton, a job to do against Burnley, a job to do against Bournemouth, and then a job to do against Napoli.
Yeah, nice one to Neil for that. Paul, I suppose we'll take a bit more of a positive spin on things now. Mane and the keeper, I thought stood out as two of the standout performers in the game. I think Mane can be very important to the way his front three plays. I think he was last season. He was sort of almost the instigator, and I know Firmino's been called the trigger in the past in terms of the press, but Mane felt like he was the trigger in terms of the counter-attacking, and I thought he did that well last night. And Alisson as well, just looked like such an improvement on what we had in the past. I think there was a couple where the commentators were saying, oh, he's made a smart save there, and it feels like it's been ages since we've had keepers who make smart saves like that, doesn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I think he's potentially already got to a point. He did one last week as well where it's a phenomenal... I think he's making some phenomenal saves that people are just going... Yeah,
just makes him look easy.
Yeah, like the one where there's an Mbappe cross and it's just... Even from this, if you freeze frame the chance before outside the box, I'm looking at going goal. Mbappe crosses it. All Cavani's got to do is tap it in.
Yeah.
It's a goal 9 out of 10 times, and he just reads it so well. And even the way he parries the ball away to the side, not out to the front, phenomenal, and such an improvement on what we've had before. I mentioned on Second Look a few days ago that he gets away with a lot of mistakes, but I think it's justified considering how good he is compared to what we've had, definitely. And yeah, with Mane, really good. And look, another positive is as well, it always comes down to moments. If you've heard me talk before, I talk a lot about moments. Even for the fact that we didn't create that much clear-cut shots on target, there were loads of chances, especially down the left-hand side, where one better pass, one final decision being better, and we'd have been in. And I think for me, that's been a bit of the story of the season so far. So the fact we're doing so well in the league, we can still go through with a home win in the Champions League, and we still haven't had a game where you'd say that sort of 90% of the final decisions have been good. I think we're doing all right.
Yeah, and you mentioned it there. It is still sort of in our hands qualification. For those who haven't seen the permutations kicking around, a 1-0 win would see us through. If Napoli score at Anfield, then we need to win by 2 goals. And if PSG draw, which I think it's entirely possible because, Red Star held Napoli at home, they beat us at home. So I think there's every chance that could happen as well. You can't rule that out. In short though, Paul, it's just about winning, isn't it? I think you can talk about all this just, maybe if we win 1-0 and if Napoli get a draw, but you don't want to be relying on all that. You want to be winning this game as comfortably as possible.
Yeah, I think the fact that given how, I know it was different last night and we didn't look great defensively last night, but we were against a superstar team, a superstar attack, in fairness. And given that we go through, if we win and keep a clean sheet, I don't think in a group like this, yeah, you can moan about the Red Star result away and you can bemoan some of last night, but we've been beaten away by Napoli in a very close game, and they scored very late. Yeah, we deservedly got beat last night, but if you can go through in this group by beating Napoli at home 1-0, I'd take that. I think that's okay. And yeah, they're a good side, but you can literally go into that game going, well, we've kept loads of clean sheets at Anfield, so just keep a clean sheet and then go from there. And I think that's probably an important one for the crowd going into this game. We don't need to do the sort of old-fashioned winning 5-0. So I don't think it needs to be a sort of Dortmund game where it's crazy and it's basketball. It can just be solid and do what we need to do, and then we're through.
I reckon I'd take a 5-0 win though.
Oh, yeah, I'm not going to
snap your hand off for that.
I'm not going to put that away. But at the end of the day, and again, we've been doing this all season, and I do the same thing. They're a really good team, Napoli.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody should be expecting us to be scoring 3, 4, 5 goals.
No,
so, yeah, we win, we take what we can get.
And I suppose the other positive is, Paul, is that it's the derby this weekend, and I think if you want one game to bounce back from, then you want one where Everton haven't won at Anfield since 1999. You want it to be against your big rivals, and you want it to be the one where all the bragging rights are on it. I seen something the other day about showing Liverpool that Everton are in the ascendancy now and calling us the junior club on Merseyside, and it just feels like, lads, come on. Like they said, we weren't living up to expectations. We're unbeaten in the league, have only dropped 2 points. Come on, lads.
They really make me laugh, you know. Like, considering how negative they are generally, there's a handful of them who do these things. And I'm guessing, like, the bulk of the Evertonians, whenever they see an Evertonian do something like that, they're like, shut up. Like, it's not the time to start gloating when we're doing the best we've done it for so many years. And the thing about playing Everton this weekend is that they're almost like the ideal team to play, because even with the context of it, they know we've just come off the back of this result. Silva's an attacking manager. All the fans will be thinking, well, we're not going to go to this game the way we used to go. We're not going to be going for a draw. We're not going to be just trying to keep it tight. So I would expect them coming to play. And that suits us down to the ground if they do that, because ultimately, at our best, we're still better than them. So, yeah, it's down to us. And I think everyone could probably do with a big game, with a big atmosphere, and we've often got excuses, haven't we, about kick-off times and stuff like that, but hopefully Sunday will be a big one and we'll bounce back. It'd be nice to get a historic win against them. Yeah,
there's the other big atmosphere we need at Anfield before the Napoli game, that one on Sunday.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone gets in town and has a pint and that as well. 4:15 kick-off, isn't it? So yeah, like you say, should hopefully be perfectly set for it. We'll be doing plenty more Everton build-up anyway over the next couple of days. In terms of releases today, the review's out looking back at last night. If you want to sort of have some moments looking back on that, a bit of a sad reflection, and also the Friday show looking ahead to the weekend, which should hopefully be a bit more positive. But that's all on Soul Player. Subscribe to that for £5 a month. Tomorrow's going to be an AFQ style Q&A video here on our YouTube channel. We're trying to do these every Friday now, so just leave your comments down below if you have any for John and Neil. And that should be it. Paul, nice one for today.
No problem.
Up the Reds.